Get out of here, mouse. Nobody came here to see you. Hello. I am Amanda Call. Thanks for joining me on the stream, and I'm going to be working on a upcoming page of my webcomic. This is Age of Night, Chapter 24, page 13. I already have all of my panel borders laid out here. I did go ahead and do one perspective grid, but I'm going to do another one later on the stream. Just out of frame, I have my script and my thumbnails, which I'll be using too. There's the thumbnail for this page. Hopefully it'll look something like that, but more done by the time we're done with this stream here. So that is what I am going to be doing. I have one other thing I need to get together out of frame though, and that is that this top frame is actually going to be kind of a very heavily reference an earlier frame a few pages prior to that, which is on page 8, and that panel looks like that. So I kind of need to have that right on hand to make sure that I have the same people in roughly the same locations in this updated panel here. So that is also just out of frame. I'll be using that as a reference as I start roughing in this panel. So let's see. We're going to have, ellipses in perspective. That's always a great way to start. So if I'm doing this technically, you draw a rectangle in perspective, and then you get the ellipse to touch each side of the rectangle at the halfway point. That's how you do that. Mine's a little wonky yet, but that's the basic technique, which still looks a little weird with attached to the barrel here. Probably needs a little tweaking, but that's the idea. All right, so there's roughly the barrel. There is, actually, I want him, that's a little cat butt right there. But I just decided that he shouldn't be sitting at this point. He should be standing on the barrel because he's getting up and excited. So his little feet are going to be right here, which means little cat butts right there, like he's just getting up. So he's still like semi-crouched. He's doing that thing where they're like still semi-crouched but straightening up. Kind of like mid that maneuver. Starting, yeah. Usually I start figures from the head, but I guess sometimes when it's a cat, you got to start from the butt. There's his ears. All right, and we've got a couple of people right close up front here. Everything, this might look a little bit weird without the whole thing thrown in there, but the perspective grid, what we're seeing here is that we're looking slightly down at this, like we're kind of hovering just above these people's heads. And so they're going to go along in perspective where these two people are roughly the same height. And so that line of perspective goes through roughly the same point on both their heads. This one just looks like it's higher up because of the angle that we're at, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense at this stage, but should make more sense as I proceed. Actually, I'm going to turn his body. Sometimes when I start doing figures, I just kind of do like I'm just kind of like on autopilot, and they're just like standing there in these facing the viewer mannequin poses, and it's just like, well, that's not what they should be doing here. Just kind of rolling on autopilot. And then it's like, oh yeah, they're supposed to be doing things. Let's make them do the things they're supposed to do. These two are holding hands, which I'll have to figure out the exact how that's going to work in a bit. because I'm not as super concerned about the clarity or lack thereof of their gesture, because that's actually not the most important part of this panel, which will make more sense in a minute. All right, so there's those two. Let's see, we need several more people, but there's one other figure that's important. So I'll put that person in first and then kind of fill in the rest of it to make sure that the most important figure in this is emphasized and doesn't get lost in the sauce. All right, so this figure is actually considerably shorter. So let's say if she's lined up with this guy, she only comes up about to his shoulder. So this line back here, we're going to follow. If she's like in parallel with him, and the top of her head is going to be back here, and she's a little ways back from the rest of this group. Kind of hanging back. And I want to make sure that I don't lose her in the rest of the crowd, so I'm putting her in now. So there, she's standing back there. So now we need to fill in a whole bunch more people in the rest of this space. So we're going to put here's one person. Kind of enthusiastically clapping her on the back. She might be too small. We'll see as I proceed. I may have made her a little too shrimpy. Let's see. Where would his legs be, roughly, if I were to finish doing this? All right. So then if we're following, this gets tricky. I guess that wasn't too bad, where her feet line up to where his feet line up. If I follow that line of perspective, which again, working on the assumption that they're in line with each other. It's just kind of an extreme perspective situation, so it looks a little goofy. So might need to tweak it to make it just look a little less absurd. A lot of times with perspective, there's what's technically correct and there's what looks right. Got a couple people here who are kind of crowding around. Another figure here who's trying to work their way into the crowd. I'm going to make a little note so I don't forget who that's supposed to be. So just quick little initials for people here for my different characters so that later on when I come back, I don't forget who's supposed to be where. That would be bad. Let's see. So that should be there. Okay. So that's all my named characters except for this one. I know who she is. All kind of gathered around. He might be too big now. Perspective. All right. Now I still need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other figures. Looking at my... That's... Okay, we're going to let them help us. There's going to be 1, 2, 3... 1, 2, 3, 4. Put another one over here. A little bit smaller than that. Okay. That should also help to make that transition to the smaller figure make more sense here. Okay. Everybody's kind of crowded around. I don't know what's going on with this. Multiple circles here. You know, I tried to make this like I wanted it to be clearly a good-sized group of people without like a small a gathering, not have it be like 3 people. But anytime you draw more than like 3 people, it's just like, this is so much work. So it's like, I want it to look like more than 3 people. I want it to be, you know, a small group, but a gathering. A probably larger than current restrictions gathering. Let's see, how many people do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yep. Oh, excuse me. Right on cue, I sneeze and remind everybody why we can't have 12 people in a place. I'm just kidding. I'm fine. I'm allergic to everything. Yes, a larger than COVID allowed group of people, but a small group of people for the event that they're in. But it's still too many. Still too many because I gotta draw them all. Anytime I have to draw them all, it's too many people. All right, we've almost got this one. All right, so a lot of these people are basically, you know, extras. They're not named characters. Like, I want them to look the same as what I drew on the previous page, but I'm not super concerned about which one is filling in which spot. Make sure I have the other, like, there's like a shrub over here. Another shrub. Whoops. Another shrub over here. We're just going to kind of get the edge of them. We'll get... And I think that's going to be it. We're going to just have the like the pavers on the ground besides that. All right. So that top panel, which is going to be a lot of work to finish when I get there, got that all roughed in. So now on to the next panel. All right. So here, as I check my thumbnail, which again is just out of frame here. That's my thumbnail. So I'm moving on to this panel and trying to translate that. This character is turning away. Anyone familiar with my comic probably knows which character is walking away from the large group of people. This is very on-brand behavior for them. Of like, oh my gosh, there's a bunch of people gathered around being boisterous. I'm out. And I have her I don't know what weirdness is going on with her mannequin here. But I'm going to have her kind of leading her motion with that, with her right arm. Oh, goodness. All right. I don't remember whether this doorway in the wall goes all the way to the top or not. That's something I will have to look up. It's not on the previous comic page that I worked on. You know what? We're going to move that a little bit because I'd rather have the doorway. I'm going to scoot her over. So I'm going to have to do this gesture again. But that's okay. Maybe I'll actually get it to a point where I'm satisfied with it this time. So erase, furiously erase. This is the stage at which to be making these kinds of changes and things. I'm going to scoot her over slightly. She is leaving. She's turning to leave. Her right arm is kind of leading that motion. Left arm kind of, it just looks like a blob. Left arm kind of trailing behind. But the big change here, that gesture didn't change too terribly much from previously. Big change here is that I want the doorway to be framing her. I think the entry, the gate, I don't remember whether there's a top to this gate or not. Just in case there is, I'll put it there. To be framing her so that not only does it reinforce the composition of this panel, draw attention to her, but also signals that she is about to leave. There. So let's see. So then over here, shots of her wandering around on the outskirts of this group, but that it's, oh, she's leaving. She's leaving the group of people behind. And the kind of things that you don't necessarily think about are actually a lot more difficult to convey in a static medium like comics than like film, where you can just have a shot of them walking toward a door. There she is, leaving. But also, I have a group of some of the other people who are still there. And one of them is going to notice. Get some of these little figures in here who are not necessarily noticing. Because they're busy with the rest of the revelry, which is fine. But yes, here's the rest of the group of people. One character notices that she is leaving. All right, there's like trees and stuff over here. So there's supposed to be like a tree right here. I'm not crazy about that growing out of her head, so I'm just going to kind of fudge it a little bit and put the tree where I was going to put that. You can still kind of have this business going on. There's another tree kind of over here. There's some more shrubs. There, I'd say that's a reasonable compromise. And I don't really want a tree growing out of her head, so we'll just have some of the like limbs kind of coming in frame over there. Sometimes you just gotta fudge a little bit to make your compositions still work. All right, so a character that sees her leaving is now gets a close-up where he's like, hey, what is she doing? He's like, hey, what the heck? Where does she think she is going? All right. So there's his little close-up. All right. So now I need to lay down another perspective grid, which I didn't do earlier. This one I did earlier because the horizon line was like up here, and I do not have room for that in my little pocket studio filming corner. But this perspective grid I'm going to do over here. Hopefully I can make this work. The horizon line is actually in frame, so I get out my trusty ruler. Gonna do the horizon line up here. Just, you know what? I'm gonna make that just a tiny bit higher. Just a tiny bit. It's still we're still kind of looking down. There we go. That's not very even. Let's try that again. All right. So there's that. So now what I need to do, this is not the most, I'm not going to say this is like the most elegant solution ever, but it's what we have to work with. So I'm going to mark on my board here. All right, that's going to be my horizon line, what I just marked there. You can kind of see it on camera, kind of. I'm going to take a couple pieces of drafting tape. I just had these stuck. They're kind of grody. I just had them stuck to my drafting table because I relentlessly reuse drafting tape because I am cheap and it is expensive. And also just I'm a dirty hippie and I care about not wasting things if I can possibly help it. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that either side of our horizon line that I just drew on this board lines up with the horizon line that I have drawn on my paper. And it does. You can't see the other side, but it does. And then I'm going to tape it down 2 different sides so that it cannot wiggle or otherwise act foolish on me. Now you've noticed I do all my underdrawing in this lovely Cola Race blue. It's in a pencil extender right now because I'm using it down to the very last nub because, like I said, cheap, don't like wasting things. So that's what I usually do the underdrawing in because it's easy to see, easy to pull out in Photoshop once I do black and white ink work on top of this. For perspective grids, I like to use more Cola Erase pencils, except I like to use them in different bright colors, very different from blue. So I usually use pink and red. So first I'm going to start with my little nubby pink. I'm going to make a little X all the way over here on my horizon line, and that is the point. This is my vanishing point for this side. So, you know, normally I use a nice steady line that's like permanently on my nice squarish drafting board, and I use that. But the thing is, the point of this exercise is that even if all you have is this small drawing board and you have to cheat by making awkward diagonals on it to get a longer line to use, you can make it work as long as you make sure that your horizon line is consistent. And you stay consistent within the perspective situation that you set up. So I am pivoting off of my left vanishing point. I'm doing a 2-point grid here. That line wobbled a little bit. Using my straight edge to keep my lines nice and straight, radiating out of that vanishing point. So that's one vanishing point. And so now what we're going to do, because obviously I'm right at the edge, you can't even see on the thing. I'm right at the scoot, try not to knock over my microphone. I'm right at the edge of the board here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick this up, scoot my board over, so maybe I have room for this. Here's my tape. So now I'm going to line up that horizon line again, all the way over on this side. Make sure it's nice and lined up there. And then tape it. And then all the way over on this side. I said okay, maybe that one's had enough. I think maybe that one's lost its sticky. I'm also kind of pulling up on the paper, which doesn't help. Okay, so this is going to be a little tricky because I have my clip in the way. All right. But now, I take my red coal erase for my other set of lines. Have a little X on the horizon line over here. Oh no. Okay, I think I need slightly fresher drafting tape because, yeah, this is not... These ones have given up the ghost. There's like a cat hair stuck to it. I'm sorry, that's disgusting. I have two that are still used, but slightly fresher. All right, let's try that again. Line up so that we're still using the same horizon line for our second vanishing point, because consistency is key, even when using a kind of weird setup like this out of necessity. All right, I have my other vanishing point set up, so now I'm going to start making my lines. I'm going to pivot my straight edge off of here. I may not be able to go all the way across because my clip is in the way, but I'll show you what to do about that too. Yeah, that clip is going to cause me problems. So if I didn't have to keep this relatively flat, like on this surface, like if I could put this on my lap or something, like let's say you have to be using a drawing board like this as your primary drawing surface because you don't have a desk for whatever reason, or you're temporarily without a desk. Oh, this one's trying to scoot again. We want it to stay put. I could just flip this over and use the back side of the drawing table or the drawing pad, the clipboard, the drawing board, words, so that I wouldn't have to contend with the clip. But I can't really do that because I have to film on this desk because of my space limitations. So as you can see, I'm not going all the way across because I'm running into my clip. I will show you how to fix that in just a second. And don't go anywhere. Last couple down in the corner. Make sure that as you pivot, you keep lined up with that vanishing point. Okay, so I couldn't quite reach, and this can happen because there's a freaking clip in your way, Or it can happen because you are trying to use a vanishing point that is ever so slightly too far away for your ruler to reach. So, which happens to me all the time, actually. So then what you can do is you draw as much of the line as you possibly can. So then all you have to do is come back here and line up your ruler on that line. Like, get it just as perfectly lined up as you can. Nudge, nudge, nudge. You don't want it more lined up at one end than the other. You don't want it kind of sort of lined up, but maybe a little wonky. You want to get it as lined up parallel to that as you possibly can, and then you just finish the line that you have. And you can see the one that I met up with the line there, it's pretty seamless. I typically use my little 18-inch steel ruler here for pretty much everything. Very rarely do I use a larger ruler if I'm doing something really big. Oh, it looks like the paper jumped on me there. Look at that. But I wouldn't want to use anything shorter than an 18-inch. That's this poor battered thing I've had since college. This thing's a million years old, and it's served me quite well. But yeah, I wouldn't do anything smaller than an 18-inch ruler, but I usually find an 18-inch ruler is sufficient for like the majority of the things I ever need to use it for. All right, so that's our perspective grid. We got that on there, despite how it felt it was going to go at times. So now I need to get my figures on here. I've got one figure over here. And again, this is slightly, the horizon line is way up here, so we're looking down slightly. So you're going to keep that in mind when you're drawing the figures, that the head should not be hovering over the top of the rib cage. It should be overlapping it slightly. I say to remind myself as much as to inform you. Same thing with like the basic form of the pelvis is going to be a little bit shorter, and the top and the bottom are going to overlap. The bottom of the rib cage is going to overlap with the top of the pelvis, etc., because you're looking down on these things, so they're kind of stacking up on themselves. They're foreshortening. Like, and also like limbs shouldn't be as long and that sort of thing. There's some people who are truly amazing at foreshortening. I really have to like think about it. But if you take care of them, they last. Yes, this is true. I have in fact had this. I've in fact had the same steel ruler since freshman year of college. So that would have been, I may not have, I don't know whether I bought it in 04 or 05, but somewhere in there. I don't remember which quarter of freshman year I bought it in, but I definitely bought it freshman year. I've had that steel ruler forever. Which is not the same steel ruler as the one. I had a 24-inch one that I was carrying in my backpack as I was biking to class one time. And it was sticking out of the top of my backpack, and it got like snagged on something, and I bent it. I was quite devastated at the time. It's like, no, because those things also, they're not cheap, but obviously I've gotten, 15 plus years of use out of it. They last, they're worth it. But, when you're a broke college student, it was just like, no, I broke it. I don't want to have to buy another one. Wait, no. This line. I have to remember which set of lines I'm following. I'm following the pink set of lines for this wall. See, I followed the pink down here, which means don't get confused by that red one. Follow this pink one. It's the other reason why it's helpful to have them be different colors, so then I can be like, yes, the pink ones, not the red ones. I would be way more lost and confused trying to do this if I did not do that. I'm going to change his gesture a little bit there. Where did my eraser has gone missing? I'll probably stand up later and it'll come flying out of some pocket dimension. Where are all my erasers? Goodness. All right, I guess we're using this very nubby one. I don't know where that went. Okay. I'll leave you like right here so I can find you later. Don't get sassy with me. All right, so because I want him to very clearly also be coming out of the doorway, so he's going to cross the doorway there. Across the shape of the door. I'm failing at words this evening. I'm sorry. All right, so definitely pursuing, like maybe not quite a flat out run, but he's hurrying. He doesn't want to lose sight of her. All right, we've got a few other shrubs going on here. We got some little pines. We've got some little shrubs. I'm going to give them their little ellipse type bases here. This comes around like this way. It's more of that. There's like another wall over here. This is all basically going to be a bunch of different shrubs over here. Okay, so now the page is entirely roughed in. Our perspective is laid down. I know where everything is going. So now I go back to the start and I start refining these rough drawings. That cat is way too damn big. I should not have started with the cat. All right, and that's sometimes one of the first things when you finish roughing in is you go back and you go, wow, that's not right. So we're gonna get this cat a little bit smaller. There's his feet again. He's just a little bit smaller. Like maybe 30% smaller. He was far too large. He got a little out of hand there. Okay, there we go. That's better. That's a little bit more appropriately sized cat. All right, I need to sharpen my nubby pencil and I can show you this lovely pencil extender, how that works. After I sharpen it, of course. All right, so nubby pencil, real pain in the butt to try to hang on to. Like really, you really have to do the claw, which is bad for your hands. Don't do that. My dear late friend Clint Staples bought me this. It's a pretty cheap standard piece of drafting equipment, but I didn't have one, and he noticed that and he got me one because he was a very thoughtful person. So you just stick it in there, you pull up on the collar, and that helps keep it in place. Depending on your pencil, it may actually lock it in, or it may just be a little bit snugger and you have to kind of hang on to a little bit. Sometimes if your pencil's a little bit too loose for it, I also will just wrap a layer of tape around it to help hold it in there. But that'll hold it in, and now you have a nice full pencil length to rest appropriately in your hand instead of doing the Claw of Doom. Don't do that. It's bad for you. All right, we're at 40 minutes. I usually work on these streams for about an hour. 40 minutes is not bad for the amount of figures and perspective and stuff we had to rough in on this page, since I did start with nothing but the first perspective grid on this page. I'm going to start working on finishing my cat. As I was saying, I usually do these streams for about an hour because I broke my tip. Because at the end of an hour, I should get up and stretch. You should get up and stretch. We should all go get a drink of water. Please move your bodies and stay hydrated, friends. This has been your comic art mom reminding you to take care of yourself. All right, so he's doing his little excited kitty, I'm starting to get up thing. Get his little feet. Trying to keep them in appropriate perspective. All right, now I need a different eraser than the big one that I do still know where it is. Where's my other eraser? This'll do. I've got several of these. This one will be just fine. Just to kind of clean up some of that underdrawing so that this is not a big, confusing, scribbly mess when I go to ink it, which may not be for a little while. Like, I'm not going to ink this immediately after I draw it. I usually work in batches, so I'll draw like 3 pages at a time or so, and then I'll ink them all at once, because I find that I get a lot more accomplished that way when I can just flow from one page into the next. But because of that, then sometimes the pages are kind of waiting around a little bit between when I draw them and when I ink them. So if I don't keep my drawing fairly clear, then sometimes I go to ink it and I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know what sort of mess I left myself. The sides of this barrel. And the top of the barrel has like little slats that need to be going. I think they went this way on the previous page. Yes, that's the way they went. Little things like that, even. It's a good reason to have your other previous page in the same scene nearby to reference. All right. Oh, so this character's head is kind of in front of everybody else. So at this point, I'm going to start working through like my depth of field. So whatever is closest to the camera, picture plane would be the appropriate term, but people always call it the freaking camera. It's not a camera. It's the picture plane, but whatever. I'm going to start working with whatever's closest to the picture plane, the illusory depth of field here. I don't know how to describe what I'm trying to say. Obviously it's not real. Nothing's actually closer to you than other things. It's a piece of paper. But we're going to start with the objects that are that appear to be in front, which in this case is this character. So just kind of solidifying them from a little mannequin gesture to something more like an actual person. Whoop. Don't be like that, drawing board. And there's another one here. We're going to have him be almost in profile. But his face is going to get blocked by the other person, which again is fine. It's a crowd scene. He's not the focus. So I don't care if half his face is blocked. Because if half his face is blocked, that's just more reason not to look at him. And to just have him blend into the rest of the group here. Kind of cleaning up some of the underdrawing as I go. Alright, so yeah, you can kind of see how they're taking up space, but they're not drawing too much attention to themselves. Unlike this character I'm about to put in here, who will be facing the camera and not terribly obscured and pretty well drawing a fair amount of attention to herself. So I'm kind of doing this like in between stage of sometimes I'll just go straight to the finished drawing from like the little mannequin, but sometimes you do this kind of in between stage where you're kind of figuring some stuff out with the drawing still. Not 100% ready to commit, but getting there. All right, I'm going to sharpen my pencil one more time before I try to tighten that up any further. Oh, thank you. Whoops. Yeah, I don't know if you were here early on in the stream when I was trying to get all the figures to work in perspective, but it's a little bit tricksy, but I like the way that it looks once it's all together. Let's see, and now we're about a little less than 10 minutes away from the hour mark, so I will start reminding everybody that I'm Amanda Cole. I'm working on my webcomic, Age of Night. Age of Night is a fantasy comic. It is pretty much entirely available for free online at ageofnight.com. That's AGEOFNIGHT.com. I update a new page every Wednesday. I'm up to chapter 24, and I think I'm up to page 7 or 8. The Amanda Call. Why is my name coming up red? I don't understand. What did you do? The Amanda Call. There are several of us in the United States, at least. But yeah, go check out my comic. That's what I'm working on here. You can read the entirety of the story online for free. If you buy the books, then you get bonus material, but it's not essential for you to enjoy and understand the story. I don't hold out on you like that. You can also, you can buy the books. You can buy them from my friendly local retailer who will sell you a signed copy. They're called The Briar Patch in Bangor, Maine. You can buy PDF copies on Skirmisher's website, Skirmisher Publishing's website. That's skirmisher.com. Those are really high quality PDFs. You can get the same PDFs on Drive-Thru RPG from Skirmisher as well. You can, of course, also buy copies, ebook or physical, on the giant online retailer. We had to figure out what's up with this cat. That's true. The giant retailer online where everybody buys everything, but I try to avoid supporting them as much as possible. So, if that's your best option, I understand. That is also an option for getting the book. It's just not my preferred option. You can also, if you would like, support me on Patreon. I have Patreon, patreon.com/ageofnight. Everyone who supports me on Patreon gets the comic pages a week early. You get other fun stuff, free comics, behind-the-scenes looks at some of my process, other cool early access and previews and behind-the-scenes stuff. So, and I super duper appreciate everybody who supports me on Patreon because it's awesome. Also, if you like these live streams, I do the live streams every Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Trying to get into something of a schedule for other YouTube content creating. We'll see how that goes with life and everything, but so far it seems to be going okay. So if you like all of that, if you like watching me draw and explain things and talk about how I make art, then you should subscribe to this channel, like this video, all the YouTube things, like the channel, subscribe, like the video, tell people you found this cool art video thing and share it, all of that stuff. It's appreciated. All right, I need to add a little bit more of her skirt in here because right now she's kind of just a floating torso. It's Wen. She's one of the main characters. But I'm going to try to put Fel in there first because he's going to be blocking some of that. Because her legs should be coming forward in here, in this area right here. But his body is going to kind of block that. So I'm going to start working on him a little bit. Although I'm just about out of time, so I'm not going to get very far. What else? Yes, other social medias. You can follow me on Twitter at Age of Night. You can follow me on Instagram at Amanda Call Art. there is also a Facebook page for the comic Age of Night. Yeah. No convention appearances coming up. Big surprise. All right, so I've got his expression put in there anyway. All right, so it's been just about an hour. I started this hour with just my panel borders and my first perspective grid. Over the course of this hour, I have gotten all 5 panels, I can count, all 5 panels roughed in, and I started tightening and finishing the pencils on the first panel. So thanks everybody who came and hung out with me and made comments, and I will see you all next time. Bye.